Hello, it's Luke for Inside the Singularity. And with continuing with my month of darkness for October, I'm going to be talking about the darkness of sexuality and how to resolve it. So, what do I mean by the darkness of sexuality? Well, I mean sexuality when it becomes repressed. See, a lot of darkness is really the repression of light. This fear of something that one aspect of consciousness tries to repress or to destroy. So, in our society, at least from my perspective where I am in the United States, we have repressed sexuality to a point where we're becoming hypersexual, where it's reversing that. And we deny sexuality a lot. Um, and we try to hide it, keep it underneath the rug, but also we vividly express it on different levels. So it's this kind of two-faced nature, and this has been true for a long time, especially with Christianity has repressed sex for a very very long time, and even spiritual practices have talked about getting rid of sex to pursue enlightenment and to become pure of heart. There, I have a cold, trying to get my throat lubricated. Uh, so the repression of sex creates this dark, dense, scary sexual energy where things that may have been fine in the jungle 400,000 years ago are now looked down upon. These natural things that arise inside of us that any person that's grew up like me in the kind of Western world with basic levels of morality. Um, if you understand spiral dynamics, stage orange, stage bluish sets of morality. We have these natural thoughts that arise that were like, holy shit, if I ever express this, I will be banned or destroyed. And you can either take a role of actively suppressing these things and trying to overcompensate for them, or you can express them as just natural things, as natural expressions of divinity or of your mind, to the point where they don't bother you. They don't control you in any way. And in that way, you have a healthy relationship with that. And your sexuality is much more healthy and mature and less fueled by fetish and taboo, per se. Um, but you also have to understand human sexuality and the fact that we like different things is all part of nature's deep, deep wisdom of, variation and diversity to increase the chances of survival. Human beings are much, much more complex and can be varied in many, many different ways, and sexual attraction and sexual fetish is one of these means. So, they're just some people that are just wired completely differently than us, that will have vastly different, weird, to us are weird, sexual preferences. Um, and now it's, I'm not, I'm not saying that we should not, prevent these people from harming children or dominating other people or hurting people. But just understanding that they did not relatively have control over that. They do not have control over that. Um, I think is a big step to extending a branch of compassion and helping them integrate into society. So we do not keep creating this shadow and demonizing of this. Uh, as me as a homosexual, I I definitely felt that have been looked upon like I am gross, I'm weird, obscene, I'm a deviant, all these things. So I've been suppressed a lot by the outside world to keep that in, to keep that to myself. And it created a lot of tension inside of myself that I had to work through. And now I feel very comfortable in my own skin, my own body. And my shadow has been, at least in that area, has been integrated. So, I know it's possible to integrate these things, and I'm sure there's straight people that have sexual repression that needs to be worked through. And why I think it's important is because in order to be a whole being, you need to integrate sex. You need to deal with this. You need to look at it face to face and honor it as God, as divinity, as an expression of consciousness, as part of a deep intelligence, as part of who you are. And what really helped me do that was I've had a few mystical experiences that felt incredibly sexual. And not by any normal means, but like the universe made love with me on such a deep, deep level that it transformed my perspective completely. Where sex was not something to be repressed, but an energy that I did not understand fully. And that I was operating on principles that I have gotten that I never really questioned. And the universe, it loves you in such a deep way, and this includes like a sexual way, where it loves you into existence. It makes loves to you into existence. It's kind of hard to explain, but it was just the kind of experience that I had that just everything became ecstasy, pleasure, and divinity. All distinctions collapsed into this. And it was deeply profound and deeply awe-inspiring. And I haven't heard many people talk about this. So this is just I want to talk about. It's just sex is not antithetical to God. It is not antithetical to spirituality. It's a deep fundamental primal energy of the universe. But it's also akin to consciousness and love as well. But here's what I'm not saying. What what I stand for is, health, balance, and expression. So you need to find, how to balance sex in your life. I want to say necessarily getting addicted to it is good, nor denying yourself it. There's going to be a different middle ground for everyone. You're either going to be monogamous or you don't want to be. There might be times where you want to be, and other times you don't want to be. You have to be willing to honor who you are and what you really want, and maybe try to get that. Um, and another thing that I've maybe want to talk about is just spiritual people, or at least spiritual teachers and leaders talking about sex. The last thing I want to do is create some type of sex cult or anything like that. That is not what I'm talking about. Um, Personally, for me, that doesn't seem like a reasonable way for to try to understand God or have experiences with God, is just have never ending sex. That's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem very appealing to me. I personally don't think I would want to be involved on that type of level. I'm specifically thinking of people like Osho and shit like that. Because this is the thing, is that sex can either be absolutely wonderful or it can be used for selfish control and ego aggrandization. That's not what I want to do. To me, I think finding the best way to lovingly and authentically express it is where we should be heading. And also just removing the taboos around it, especially around the naked human physique, which I feel has been slowly dwindling. But I've just found it kind of just funny how afraid we are to see other people naked, or how afraid people are to see, you know, they don't want people to see them naked and all these things. And it kind of makes me laugh because we're born naked. We grew in the forest 500,000 years ago. We were born naked. There's nothing wrong with this. But of course, this is all a part of, our culture. And, it's just kind of flimsy and shallow, this notion. So there's that. Uh, I'm really about just like, hey, you're here, you're alive. There's a lot of things to see. There's a lot of things to do. How do you have the best time while you're here? How do you find your authentic self and bring that to the world? You know, you know, chill out, relax. Everything's gonna be okay, man. Like, how do you really have a good time while you're here? And I think, if you feel sexual urges, how do you have good sex? How do you have loving, compassionate sex that can even be mystical and show you the magic of life? Like, that's to me what's interesting. And uh and it's just a deep part of expressing your humanity as well. And why I wanted to include this topic in this my little fun month of darkness is because sex to me has, it just, at least where I've come from, it's been so taboo to talk about. It's so uh and it can get very dark, very ego egotistical, very hurtful, very, just uh just vivid and horrific things you hear, um stories, and just, sexual slavery and all these things, and you're just like, if all this exists, then how is divinity, love and goodness and all of this? Well, it's really, you have to understand that, you know, it's all necessary. It's all part of the bigger picture. It's all part of the balance and the harmony of life. And it can be very, 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 very hard to accept from your ego's small vantage point. And only at higher levels of consciousness can these things really start to make sense. And this is why a conversation like this can be very, very dangerous if taken in the wrong way. So, if you want to rectify this for yourself and to find peace in yourself, you need to really get on to the spiritual journey and start to integrate these things and understand the nature of duality, of relativity, of light and darkness, and why these things are the way they are. Because there's no conceivable way that I could explain this to you. It's practically ineffable. But once you find it, once you experience it, once you keep coming back to it and you let it permeate through you and it becomes real, like very much is for me, it's my living, breathing experience, then things will start to make sense. And you can smile on the face of the most deepest, darkest thing and understand why and love it. And yeah, once you get to that point, you can decide how you want to create a nicer, more loving world. You know, I'm still all for that. I would love that, a more harmonious, unified world, but that's because I'm aligned with the divine will, which is a whole nother thing. But, you know, just the propagation of love and the unification of all things, which goes into cycles. So, bring this down to the practical level. So thinking about your own life, you need to be willing to go off-roading and venture deep inside yourself and see what's there and see what's awaiting you and be open to it. You're going to have vastly different problems than I did. You're going to have vastly different demons than I have. You're going to have vastly different things. But you need, in order to integrate these things, come at it with an open heart and be willing to extend an olive branch. Because if we're going to, as the ultimate goal, become more loving, compassionate, angelic-like beings that reflect the truth of divinity, we must integrate the duality inside ourselves. And what you will find is that the darkness inside of you just wants loving attention. It wants to just be honored as an expression of the divine. And this to me was the most powerful insight that I probably had. is that no matter what problem I face in life, no matter what block I find or anything like that in my psyche, is that loving it is the answer. Not fighting it, not going against it, but love. Love deeper than I ever have. Love until it integrates inside of me and collapses down. That to me is the most amazing thing. But it can feel like, oh my god, I'm going to love all these terrible things about myself, and then they're going to start coming through and taking over. But in reality, the more and more you repress it, the more and more it's going to control you. So yeah, you have to play with that. And this is what this whole month of darkness thing is about. Is like, it's easy to love the good stuff, but what about loving the bad stuff? The stuff we don't like. We need to start doing that to help us grow as people. You know, help us grow as spiritual beings. This is like the next level of spiritual mastery here. And that's what I'm interested in. It's just that for its own sake. For its own sake. You know, some people are not ready for this journey, and that's perfectly fine. You know, they can come to it when they're ready. In this lifetime and the next 1,000 lifetimes. It's so good. So good. There's nothing to worry about. So anywho, thank you for watching the video. Yeah. I will see you in the next video, and may you be blessed.